Upon reviewing episode 1 of Moon Knight, you could easily tell how excited I was to see how this whole series would progress. And now, after watching the final episode, we can finally discuss the final result. Hey guys, welcome back to Lip Talk, and this is my review for the whole season of Moon Knight. But before we get into that review, don't forget to leave a like on this video and please do consider subscribing. So Disney released its final episode of Moon Knight, episode 6, all part of the MCU. Jeremy Slater was the head writer and creator of the whole project, with Mohamed Diab in charge of the direction, together with Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, and starring Oscar Isaac together with Ethan Hawke. Overall, Moon Knight has been a pleasant surprise for me. I honestly knew little to nothing about the character and was interested in it only because of the presence of Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke, two of my favorite actors right now. To my surprise, I ended up watching a series steeped in Egyptian mythology and lore with very interesting visual style, rather unique when compared to other Marvel productions, with some brilliant acting by its two main stars. But let's start off by talking about the plot and the story. And from now on, please do note that my review will be chock-a-block filled with spoilers. So please take note if you have not watched the final episode. Oscar Isaac is Mark Spector, Moon Knight, as well as Stephen Grant, Mr. Knight, and also Jake Lockley, as we find out at the end of episode 6. Mark is a mercenary with dissociative identity disorder who becomes the avatar of the Egyptian god Khonshu. He developed multiple personalities due to abuse he faced as a young child. Each of these personalities has their own particular accent, different personalities, and it's truly impressive to see how Oscar Isaac portrays all of this. This we will talk about later on as we discuss performances. Now, the series does take its time to develop these different personalities, with whole episodes actually dedicated to interactions between the two personalities, Mark and Stephen, between whom there is quite a bit of tension at the start, but slowly they start to cozy up to each other and kind of become friends in a way. It's weird to talk about friends when it's the same person. Anyways, after the crazy ending of the pilot episode, Stephen meets Layla, Spector's wife, who at this point was not completely aware of Mark's disorder, and therefore did not know that he had multiple personalities. I must be honest, at the start I was not convinced by May Calamoui and thought it was unfortunate that they were forcing in this love interest, but her character did admittedly grow on me, and her climactic scene in the series, turning into Scarlet Scarab, the avatar of the Egyptian goddess Taweret, was an excellent idea and was portrayed excellently. Together with Layla, Khonshu and Mark Stephen attempt to stop Ethan Hawke's character, Arthur Harrow, an intimidating antagonist who is a cult leader linked with the Egyptian goddess Amit. Their belief is that one must bring justice to people before them actually committing a crime, which is where Khonshu and Amit disagree. Anyways, Harrow is a fantastic villain here, and he bounces off Mark and Stephen really well. You can tell Harrow truly believes what he's doing is the best solution to the world's problems. Unfortunately, he is not looking at the consequences of said actions. Harrow is attempting to bring Amit back, and so we spend most of the series seeing Harrow attempt to do so, whilst Mark and Stephen attempt to stop him. Anyways, Harrow is a fantastic villain here who bounces off Mark and Stephen really well. You can tell Harrow truly believes what he is doing is the best solution to the world's problems. Unfortunately, he is not looking at the consequences of said actions. Harrow is attempting to bring Amit back, and so we spend most of the series seeing Harrow attempt to do so, whilst Mark and Stephen attempt to stop him. It all comes to a head in episode 4 with Harrow shooting Mark and Stephen and them waking up in a psychiatric hospital. There, Harrow is a therapist. In episode 5, which in my opinion was also the best episode, by far the best episode of the season, we see Mark and Stephen sailing through the Duat with the Egyptian goddess Taweret weighing their hearts on the scales of justice, which decide whether they can enter into the fields of reeds or not. Naturally, they are not, and so this leads to the two personalities talking about their lives and Mark exposing events to Stephen that he had hidden. Eventually, with Khonshu released by Layla, Mark and Stephen are revived and return as Moon Knight and Mr. Knight, and so as to take on Arthur Harrow, the avatar of the goddess Amit. Now, with regard to the storytelling here, I think show writer and creator Jeremy Slater has done a decent job in creating shocks, twists and turns, and make it really unpredictable, actually subverting our expectations in truly surprising and interesting ways. Unfortunately, I must also say that midway through the series, mostly around episode 3 and the beginning of episode 4, the story did slow down quite a bit and my interest kind of did slightly wane here. Considering how much the final episode had to cover, I must say I did not dislike it. It had a lot of awesome moments and also lots of great payoffs, such as seeing Layla become the Scarlet Scarab. I must, however, say that yes, many events take place in a very rushed manner, and it would have been great to see the whole thing conclude in a much calmer and in a better way overall. However, I must praise the writing with regard to Spectre's DID, as we see him lose track of time, but I will discuss this more when I talk about the movie's great editing. Performances in this series are very, very, very good. Needless to say, Oscar Isaac is spectacular, and episode 5 will surely be his Emmy nomination episode. The way he manages to portray two completely different personalities on screen is just outstanding. The characters do not sound the same, do not feel the same, do not sometimes move the same. It really does feel like when Mark and Stephen interact, you have two completely different persons doing so. He also has some brilliant transitions between characters in which his body language truly is something to behold. Overall, Isaac does kind of carry the show, and I must admit that without him, I would have been much less interested in what was going on. That is not to say that Ethan Hawke did not have a good performance here. His portrayal of Arthur is also very, very, very good, and he's a constant, menacing presence with a voice that will send chills down your spines. He's definitely the kind of person who would be able to gather a cult, and it shows that he did a lot of research on that topic prior to taking on the role. His introduction scene alone is enough to show us what kind of person Arthur Harrow is, and throughout, Hawke is unflinching. As mentioned previously, I was also very much surprised by May Kalamaui as Layla El Faouli, whose character became more and more engrossing as time passed, until I truly embraced Mark and herself as a couple fighting to stop Arthur Harrow. It was great to see her constantly get her hands dirty and more than stand up for herself in some great action sequences, although I must admit that her performances were also pretty good. This is a good segue, however, to talk about the action in this series, of which I was also quite impressed. In fact, series creator Jeremy Slater has done a great job with pretty much all the visual elements of this series. Obviously, props must go all around. First of all, Stefania Cella does a great job as the production designer. The sets are beautifully designed with lots of nice touches, portraying Egyptian history and culture. Another visual aspect I really enjoyed were especially the costumes, with Moon Knight and Mr. Knight having their own particular costumes that perfectly portrayed them. I also loved Scarlet Scarab's costume and its use in the final episode. Now, like I mentioned in my first review on episode 1, I think Director Mohamed Diab has done an excellent job in portraying the mystical and dark tone that this series is pushing for, without going too dark. There is some excellent editing and use of effects throughout the whole season. The scenes where Grant seems to forget what is going on and portrays his confusion excellently, making us, the viewers, just as confused as the protagonist, with some lovely editing. At the start of the series, Jeremy Slater decided on the use of mirrors and reflections as a way for Mark and Steven to communicate with each other, and this was also really well done. The action, whilst clearly not an essential part of the series, with more focus given on the psychological aspect of things, were also quite still well done, and a lot of the budget must have gone into that final Khonshu versus Ammit fight sequence. However, I must say that whenever Mark or Steven transformed into Moon Knight, it was always a pleasure to see, not just because of how impressive the effects were, with small details such as seeing the different lunar phases in Oscar Isaac's eyes, but Oscar Isaac's brilliant performance and brilliant physical acting in those scenes were vital, together with the epic score. Egyptian composer Hesham Nazih composed the score for this series, which is a beautiful mixture of old and new, encompassing a nice combo which truly showcases Egypt's music and is a great companion throughout these 6 episodes. I can only say one more thing, however. Marvel needs to add more episodes to a series like this. I think it was clear from the start that this would be a hit. Great writing and storytelling, great performances, great visual style, and just an overall entertaining watch. It is so unfortunate that the final episode needed to be rushed so as to conclude all the hanging plot lines. And at the end of the day, this will impact my rating for Moon Knight. Where do I think does it stand compared to other MCU series? My favorite will always remain WandaVision, with Loki being a close second. But I think that Moon Knight can quite easily challenge for that second spot. And for all these reasons, my rating for this season of Moon Knight is a 4 out of 5, and my suggestion for everyone to watch it. Will there be a Moon Knight season 2? So far, the signs seem to show that no, there will not be, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that review. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like on this video and please do consider subscribing. Cheers, and I'll see you guys next time right here on Adlib Talk.